Hi there guys, Sam here. You join me in a Fiat 500e electric. To give you a little bit of an ownership review, I've had this car for about 3 weeks now, thanks to Onto, who've lent me the car to sort of give my opinions on it, give you the positives, give you the negatives, give you the overview of how this car has been. So let's get straight into this one. So as you can see just in front of me, the car is on 758 miles. I picked up this car, or was given this car by Onto, on about 92 miles. So fair to say I've done a fair few miles in this car to give you a really good overview, and that's been within about the last sort of 3 weeks. So I've really kind of embraced it to kind of understand the whole car, understand the whole sort of like electric ethos. I've had previous videos on it. I have living with the Fiat 500e, and I have my sort of like initial collection of the car. My aim is to kind of show you exactly everything about this car, because I feel like I'm in a great position to give you an ownership impression. So let's start with the basics. This is a Fiat 500e. It's a car offered by Onto. If I haven't mentioned them, they're an electric car subscription company. Please check them out in the description, or sort of like the pinned comment, even if just to get an understanding about EVs. And then potentially you can do sort of like a month by month subscription if you choose to. And I will explain a little bit about how I found them as well in this video. I'll get straight onto it. I'll be honest with you, I'm going to really miss this car when it goes back, and that's something that I did not expect to say. Being such a huge petrol head, if you check out other videos on my channel, it's fairly obvious what type of person I am. I never thought I would be saying that about this car, but I've really enjoyed it. It's had to do a lot of things for me. I do a lot of filming, for example, for my YouTube channel, and it's had to get me to subscribers. The car has done it fine on its charge. It's had to get me to work inside sort of like the ultra low emission congestion zone in London, and you know, it's done that, and obviously it's free because it's an electric car. At time of filming, I'm filming this on, I think it's the 4th of December 2022. So those have all been really cool benefits, and it's just worked. So first things off, I actually really like something that a lot of people talk to me about is sort of like the infotainment and whether or not they work. And to be honest with you, this has worked really well. One cool little feature actually is you can have like this double Sat Nav thing up. So if I show you it here, you basically get 2 little screens, and it's quite good. I've found it quite useful. You know, I'm normally someone who just uses like Google Maps on my phone, but I wanted to give a good impression of what this one was like. As you can see as well, as you kind of navigate through, it's not like laggy at all. Like literally, I mean, I'll show you it on camera. Like you can see me tapping around. It's not slow, it works. So real fair play to Fiat on how they've got this to work, and all the cool things like, so you've got your charge settings. You can set like really stuff that I haven't done yet, but you basically shows like the power that you've used in the car, being an electric car, and how much you've saved from the charge, and that's off like regenerative braking. And you got your current, your kind of weekly stats there. You can set little charging schedules if you want, and your charge settings. I never really understood the charging level. Apparently the higher you do it, the more risk it is that there might be a problem or something. I've normally had it on 3, but I put it on 4 recently. It didn't really seem to make too much of a difference. Usual features on here, and it works fine. Radio, no real issues. Everything's worked, which is great. But it also has physical buttons, which is nice to see on a 2022 car. You know, with everything going kind of like virtual, it's pretty nice, and they've all worked. One thing I will say, they're very plasticky and cheap. I'm not gonna lie, it just is. Like the wheel is really nice, and it has a really nice feel to it. And actually, I believe like even like the interior is made of like sustainable materials, which is cool. That's great. The doors are pretty cool. You've got like this button to open it, so you don't actually have a door pull. You have quite a large amount of space. Being an electric car, it means there's no sort of like transmission tunnel. This car doesn't have any gears. So, I mean, I don't know what you would put there, but it's quite nice. It just makes this small little city car feel a little bit more airy. You have a few, like, again, volume buttons are always quite handy. You've got loads of buttons on the steering wheel as well. It's got cruise control. I've played around with the cruise control. It works fine. It's not like adaptive or anything, but it does the job. Also wipers, also lights, lane keeping assist. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff, and it's done it quite nicely. Nice stylish car, but I mean, I'll let you decide whether or not you think that's the case. Going on a bit of the negatives, I mean, like that mirror, as you can see me, my face, there I am, is like genuinely, it looks really cheap on a premium car. I mean, And I think this is where I'm kind of understanding it. All the little plasticky parts are designed to keep the price point of this car down. I mean, it's one of Onto's best cars, to be honest, best-selling cars, because of the price point that it's at. And all the money goes on the battery. This car, I've got around sort of 150 mile range out of sort of like a full charge. That's around what you'll get from this. We're in December, it's cold, it's wet, it's miserable, it's not great for the battery, but it's done the job. And yeah, I think that's where your money goes, basically. You have a few little like drive modes, again, quite premium stuff. You know, you got auto hold handbrake, which you wouldn't expect on this sort of class of car, and I thought that was quite good. You have some E modes, and basically what you can do is you toggle between 3 modes. One mode which is normal, which is basically like your normal driving. So you have the acceleration, you have the gas, you have the acceleration, you have the brake, you use it like a normal car. You then have 2 other modes which essentially are like regenerative braking. It's called one pedal driving. It means you have your foot on the accelerator. Whenever you lift off, the car will brake hard, and depending on the 2 other modes, it depends on the severity of the braking. That gives you more charge, and it is quite cool to see your battery go up, particularly when you're going downhill. To gain range is quite exciting. I used it for a day. I did not get on with it. I didn't like the ability to just stamp on the brakes all the time. I quite like, you know, sometimes just lifting and coasting, you know, I'll be honest. And yeah, I just didn't find it good. I actually found it a little bit dangerous sometimes. You know, I didn't want people to go in the back of me from a heavy brake for no reason. But you can just switch that to normal. That's what I did, and it worked fine. No gearbox, so it just sort of gets up to speed quickly. The torque is really good. It flies. It's a quick car, genuinely, particularly 0 to like 30, 0 to 40. Really, really quick. It really hooks up. Traction, I haven't really had any issues either, particularly as it's on like eco type tires. It's done the job. Have I had any problems? It's come up with a few warnings. Like, I don't know if that's a warning, something about the airbag or something like that, and there's a few things that have popped up there. I'm not too sure why. Like, I think it's thought someone was sitting in the seat and there wasn't a seatbelt on, so I'm not too sure about that. Maybe teething issues. This is a brand new 72 plate car, not too sure. One thing that I like, being a bit of a driver, because you can change like the reach and rake of the steering wheel, so I bring it nice and close to me. It actually incredibly has a traction control button, which basically means you can essentially reduce the ability of the car to sort of like brakes by itself. So essentially what most cars will do is it will think that, you know, you're having an accident pretty much at every corner, and it'll overcompensate. So it'll slow the car down by itself, and it'll brake certain wheels. It has all this clever stuff. Reducing the traction control just puts you a little bit more in control. There's some really fun roads around here in Bedfordshire. Actually, I've just come up here. It's quite nice to have it off, just to have a little bit of fun on the back roads in the 60 mile an hour sort of zone, and it's good fun. There isn't really much feel in the steering, I'm not gonna lie, and it's a little bit floaty, but as I mentioned before in the like previous living with video, because the batteries are quite heavy, this is actually quite a heavy city car, but it's light for an electric car, and because of that, it actually just gives it a bit of a lower center of gravity. I've come up here on the M1. I've done a fair amount of motorway driving. I mean, I'm not too far off nearly 700 miles driven in this car. And yeah, I've done all sorts of driving, motorway driving, back road driving, short city trips to do the shopping, you know, everything. I've done literally everything in 3 weeks. That is pretty much to sum it up. And I found it like, I mean, it blows around a little bit on the motorway, but it's done it well. And I think the extra weight kind of helps. I've found it really, really good, and yeah, I'm really surprised. So like, would I recommend this to people? I think, if I'm honest with you, can I recommend any electric car to someone? I probably would struggle, but this is where Onto came in, and you know, I appreciate them allowing me to share positives and negatives. You know, it's not every company is going to allow that kind of thing, so I do very much appreciate that, as I like to give a transparent view. I think if you do want to get into an electric car, whether it's a Fiat 500e or anything else, I think Onto is pretty much the best way to do it. A, from a cost perspective, and also B, just from, will it work for you? Will it work for your kind of lifestyle? That's the real main important thing. Might not work for everyone. There's pros and cons. You know, I've done a massive video on sort of like the charging aspect, the living with aspect, which I do recommend checking out after this. So will it work for you? You have to decide. But you know, technology changes so fast, and this car is crazy advanced, but I mean, I'm looking in front of a very nice church, as you might be able to see there. That's the problem. The cars are so much more advanced than the roads and the infrastructure around. That's the truth, you know. That's just where we're at. The cars are better than everything else. And the cars are constantly improving, so you just don't know where you're going to be. You know, in 3 to 6 months' time, this car could be out of date. In which case, would you really want to be tied into a, you know, a larger contract, if that makes sense? You know, I'd feel much happier being able to get out or move on to a different car. Personally, if I was into and going in for an electric car, you can technically have a car for a month and give it back to them if you should wish. Personally, I would have it for 2 to 3 months. If you like it, if it works in your life, then obviously keep it. If it doesn't, nothing lost, nothing gained, bit of experience, enjoyed it. I've had a great time. One thing I will say, so Onto offer like, it's like a 750 mile limit. I'm pretty much coming up to that after my first month, but you can extend that. I personally would say, use it or lose it, basically. Make sure you have a purpose of using this car. If you have a family, you can add additional drivers as well, which I thought was quite cool. I'm personally on my own, but if I had kids or if I had another partner or anything like that, you can kind of add them on and then they can use up the mileage as well. So there is lots of pros, and also it gets you into the latest and greatest. One biggest benefit though, and I think this has saved me quite a lot of money, I probably have charged this car for, I don't know, 8 or 9 times. I mean, you can work out 150 mile range, and I've charged it a lot. Onto actually give you sort of like free charging access for about 12,500 points. It's probably saved me between 100 and 150 pounds because I was watching how much it would have cost me. So you take that off what you would be paying and it starts to make sense. I can recommend the service 100%. And I can recommend the Fiat 500e. And that is something to be honest with you, I never thought I would say. You asked me that a month ago, I would have said, no, stay away from electric. We just don't know where things are at. But I think this little package works. And it's a really great car. It's done loads of stuff for me. Like when I've gone swimming or whatever, the boot is more than big enough, even with the cables. And you get like this little cool, like little ratchet handle thing at the top to pull down the boot, which I'll show. Just stuff like that, really nice little convenient touches. And it's obviously like keyless. You can just, you know, as long as you've got the key in your pocket, the car will open, the car will lock. Yeah, it's good. I've had passengers in here. It's still not slow. Obviously that adds a little bit more weight. There's no room in the back unless you've got kids, so that's one thing. So great car. I really liked it. Let me know if you want to know anything more about this car that I have not described, and check out Onto in the description. But yeah, really, really impressed with the car. Really, really enjoyed it, and going to be super sad to say goodbye to it.